not?
I mean, strap yourself in, Matt. Who knows at this point? At least we have the video games, and this one is already shaping up to be quite a good one here. The Paris Eternal on defense looks like they're again opting for this defensive dive setup that really worked for them. You know, early on Junkertown, where they played a spawn camp. Now, it's less viable to play that spawn camp style on a map like this. You want to play back and actually, you know, where the topography of the map lends itself to a defender's advantage. But I still want to see how this arguably higher risk composition can hold the Gladiators at bay.
Yeah, so we'll see what the Paris Eternal, how their defense goes here, running the Echo yet again, as this will be the Gladiators on offense. You'll have the dive tanks. Oh, interesting if they play well, the Ana here is actually not bad because you can have a lot of like long-range sightlines to be able to heal. No shields that it has to really kind of contest with. Not a ton of shielding. But they do switch off of it though. They're gonna go with Lucio and the Moira. Probably with the Echo damage, you can just kind of clump up in a death ball.
It might imply as well that the Gladiators are shifting to a more of a close quarters play style with one another at least. That the Ana doesn't really give you much of a bonus, where the Moira can just, you know, just get that healing out, spread it over the team. And Space has already tried to make his way into the point. He will need to be doctored in just a moment as OG heads to the high ground there. Note that FD Gold got very low in that dive attempt, so he needs to be careful. A lot of burst healing. A Fielder's not going to be there, but speaking of the devil, he comes out and sends OG to the 7th circle. Burnering's going to fall here as well to the sticky bombs. And the Eternal, they want to play aggressive. They want to set the pace, so they play an ostensibly riskier comp, but Matt, it looks like it works.
Yeah, I mean, it does a nice job, right? They're able to deal with the dive, the aggression from the LA Gladiators, and now they'll move right back to the choke, and they move to that choke with a lot more resources in terms of ultimates, right? So now you have both support ults to work with here. We'll see what NiKo decides to do in terms of his duplicate, right? I think either a Winston or a D.Va would be a good call here, as Paris wants to get aggressive.
They dive deep for this one though, Matt. Soon's bomb goes straight into the Korean future Dyson. Space eats that one up and they catch no smite out. It's going to be followed up by an EMP, and Hanbin trying to limp away here, maintain that mech for as long as he can, but it's not long at all. NiKo got kicked out of his duplicate awfully fast, and we go from 2 D.Vas to 1 Bunny Blaster. And now the Gladiators get to push up here, and they have everything they need, and even more importantly, Matt, they still have 2 ultimates to work with. Paris gave them an easier window into that fight.
Paris should be able to get on and at least contest, though. I mean, No Smite's got a Primal Rage. He's going to use it up in the cafe, just knocking players around. It'll be OG with his Primal Rages, too. There's a lot going on in the cafe.
No way, the tanks from the Eternal getting the job done. Hanbin finds his 2nd in the fight. Okay, OG's in trouble now on that upper level of the cafe. Pulse bomb thrown down, no connection there, but still the Eternal have joy. And Matt, okay, you can't tell me that was how Paris wanted that fight to go.
I mean, Paris didn't exactly probably think they could win that fight, but as soon as they got the 1 kill with the Primal Rage, and then Hanbin was just finding tons of damage, they had a really good shot, and Hanbin ends up killing 3, I believe, in the fight. Soon actually gets 1 as well, and they're able to win it, as now the Gladiators, they're in a tough spot. Minute 15 on the clock. You're really playing around this next EMP that comes up. You're going to be able to get some ultimates, though, for the Paris Eternal by time Mirror has it. As, ooh, No Smite actually goes a little bit too far. You see how separate he was from the D.Va.
Now, double coalescences coming out, essentially cancelling one another, and with No Smite deep in the belly of the beast, there was really no way he was going to get out unscathed. And okay, so that's kind of feels like a little bit what we saw on Junkertown, is again the Eternal commit, but they commit deeper. They go past the archway instead of allowing the Gladiators to take some ground.
As I think No Smite just got a little bit too far ahead of Anfin, as he was not able to get there with his defense matrix. As this will be FD God using the sound barrier, so Paris wants to fight this, try and get a full hold.
They can't keep getting away with it. The Eternal again go for a late attempt at a recapture here, but they lose Fielder and No Smite awfully early on in the fight, and this is actually more of an opportunity for the Gladiators to build ultimates already in a position of supremacy in this fight. They can convert this extra damage into resources to leverage fight after fight, as we will undoubtedly be heading into the 2nd phase of the map.
You would think so, as Birdring comes back, gets a pulse bomb there onto No Smite as he's very low, as they should be able to take the point now. So you finally have the Gladiators able to take point A, which seemed like a while, but you know, they're going to have some good ultimates used here. They coalesce, they're going to try and push them back, get some of these kills to stagger them out, right? This will give Paris a bad spawn and at least 3 of their players. So this should buy the Gladiators a ton of cart progress.
Matt, here's a question for you, and I want you to sort of spell it out for me, because the Eternal are playing a more aggressive style that looks riskier, but is this, after what we saw in Junkertown and this now, is this actually safer overall with how much time they're buying, even if it looks like a more aggressive, a more risky composition?
Well, I mean, let's put it this way. If you're going to play the composition they're playing, you cannot be a team that plays passive. All of these heroes don't really excel at just kind of sitting around and letting the fight come to them. As, that'll be an EMP used by Mirror. Space also eats up the pulse bomb of Soon. So the Gladiators should continue to keep the car moving.
All right, so perhaps it's just safer to play this composition in an aggressive way.
It's the only really way to play it. Like, you can't really play Winston D.Va with a Tracer and a Sombra and play passively. Nobody would really be generating any ult charge. You're just kind of sitting around taking tons of damage, letting them dictate the pace of the game. So you have to play aggressive on defense with those tanks and the damage dealers.
Yeah, it might seem like a simple concept to some, but there's definitely parts of it that aren't immediately intuitive, which is kind of why we will explore it a bit. Space gets demeched here. It's a chance for Paris to come back in at a crucial point once more. OG's in such a great spot, though. Finds his way into the back line, forces the fade, but fails to predict the direction that Fielder takes. Now Fielder has a chance to stay alive and use the coalescence, and a longer fight is going to benefit Paris in that case. The Gladiators don't have many support ultimates to work with. Big Goose's sound barrier doesn't get the job done, and yeah, Shaz knows he's done. He'll accept the try shot and go back to spawn with 40 seconds left.
And that's where you see having the dive on defense for the Paris Eternal. It is a little bit riskier. You have to play with this fast pace, but in turn, you do get more fights, right? You get back to the card faster, the fights drag out a little bit longer, players are more spread out, the deaths are a little bit more separated, so we'll see now with the Gladiators. 20 seconds on the clock, just the coalescence to work with. You have to try and get Mirror building up towards that EMP, and they lose Shaz early.
I mean, Soon just drops in. He barely tickled Shaz, but he'd already taken so much damage from that first foray for Paris. The Pulse Bomb just doesn't matter here in this kind of matchup. Birdring and OG doing what they can to try and bring things back, but it's a very healthy D.Va in a late fight. It's extremely hard to deal with. Hanbin needs to be focused down earlier on. A coalescence here for Shaz. This might go a long way. Hanbin trying to stay alive. You can see desperately Fielder's trying to give him the biotic grasp to keep him in the mech. Now he's desuited. Paris take an opportunity to try and back away. They regroup, returning now with No Smite at full health. Hanbin trying to get back in the mech with the Bunny Blaster, but OG's down. FD God's aggression pays off, and Birdering, the Pulse Bomb placed at the feet of Fielder. It wasn't a peace offering, no, a declaration of war. Mirror returns back to the fight as well, and the Gladiators starting to channel their own form of aggression. Mirror's going to get caught out of the fight, though he knows he doesn't want to try and punch in towards No Smite, who opens up a lot of space, takes the Doomfist out. Now Mirror's going to return with less players to back him up as there's self-destruct over the top. It catches Birdring. Nico with the duplicate. This time it comes up Millhouse, and OG now has to stand up on the card. He has a primal race to buy a little bit of time as well. The Pulse Bomb thrown in again soon, not connecting with anyone on that one though. Space down. Here's the primal rage. It's got to be now for Roji. He needs to create both space and time, and it's not quantum physics, it's just good Overwatch. Big Goose down. Sticky Bombs get rid of him. Fielder going to stand up on the card now, and there's not much Mirror could do. He spent all of his time on the outside looking in. By the time he returns to the fight, he is already cut down. OG trying to play around the corner. No joy for him. And the Paris Eternal managed to fight back in, throw the game state into chaos, and take control.
As towards the end of that, it was actually well played by the Gladiators to even keep that going. When that self-destruct goes off, somebody almost has to sacrifice themselves for the Gladiators. And because OG's obviously, you know, the tank got a lot of health, has primal, you're not going to sacrifice him, so Birdring kind of has to get a touch to continue overtime. But OG with a primal, I mean, he lived forever. You had an opportunity where players from the Gladiators respawned, got back in the fight, but Parrish has had the ultimates at the end. Hold on defense.
What do you think about No Smite really just charging after Mirror there as the Doomfist, just trying to keep him out? Does that make a huge impact?
He was so low, and Mirror did a nice job of just kind of kiting it, and he was going to try and make his way back towards the Mega. But at that moment, right, if you allow Doomfist to live and Doomfist just gets going, right, all it takes is one punch for the Doomfist to start generating shields, generating tons of threat, and being an impactful hero out on the field. Where I kind of like the idea to chase the Doomfist down from No Smite and pick up that kill. I think it was that important.
Paris Eternal, all their ducks are in a row, and I mean, they'll be very pleased. Getting a W against the Gladiators, a full strength Gladiators, by the way, as Paris is still adjusting to Fielder being in the roster, but I mean, they look good as gold, and they're going for it now. The Gladiators only get about halfway or towards the end of that second phase of the map, and that signature brand of aggression from the Eternal. I had to take back what I said, you know, at halftime, Matt. It seems like, yeah, the double shield looked good for Paris, but now they've started to refine the look of this dive comp, and they look more comfortable, you know, piloting the more aggressive Voltron.
I think it's also really map dependent as well, where Oasis, there's a lots of small choke points and not a ton of great options for verticality, especially on some of the points that we got. Space will end up getting the first kill here, where the Echo really didn't pay off as much, where I think a map like this, definitely the Echo is a little bit more impactful.
Very nice from OG there. Took a lot of damage early and was able to stay back and get healed up somewhat. But that bomb dropped right into the middle of his shield that he left behind. A bit unfortunate for Hanbin, as now he's removed after the D-suit. And the Gladiators say, we have to match this brand of Overwatch. We have to press W. Otherwise, the Eternal are going to run us over. And again, it's all about being able to dictate the pace of the game. And you know what? Simply just get a first kill in the fight.
You know what though? The Gladiators end up using Coalescence there, and Paris will have their own Coalescence here to basically use for free. A self-destruct from space up in the sky as No Smite gets very low. You see him at the top of the cafe. It forced it, that self-destruct forced him inside, and that allowed them to burst him down.
Again, No Smite gets too far ahead of Hanbin, and Nico in midair gets hacked. Sound barrier gets thrown in by the Eternal, but maybe that's not a fight they want to commit to with so many players, EMP.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't exactly that, like, No Smite, that Hanbin was too far away from No Smite there, but more in the sense that, like, Space's self-destruct kind of just landed towards the front side of the point, separated the Paris Eternal. The only spot that No Smite could go for safety was the cafe, and that's how he gets burnt down. But the Gladiators going aggressive, trying to finish off some of these kills. They may have pressed the mark too much as they lose a few players. Now everybody back at full strength, though.
So many teams struggle with that margin play, though, man. How aggressive to go. No Smite once more. Yep, he gets body blocked even by the mech of Space, prevents him getting out, and the Coalescence, I mean, seems fine now. Shaz probably expecting the Eternal to commit more to the fight, but they don't, losing their Winston so early.
Well, that's one where you were going to, if you're Paris, right, you can get back to full strength on both sides. You know that EMP is probably not on the table for the Glads. If you would have just played around that corner and let Fielder build up towards another Coalescence, you would have had a good shot of pushing and taking point A.
Soon gets in, at least for now. OG gives him a tickle. That's a stick on the pulse bomb. Sound barrier had to be drawn out. Nico, oh my! Tries to go in with the focusing beam, but gets interrupted by Mira halfway through. The Echo's down. Fielder, I mean, he had to commit the Coalescence to the fight here. Keep it going, and they get this D-suit on Space, but No Smite is low, and there's not a lot of resources for Fielder to use the Bionic Grasp with self-destruct there from Hanbin. Tried to put it on the edge of the stairs and hope to catch someone unaware. But the Gladiators, their eyes are wide open right now.
This was a lot like the Gladiators' attack, though, right? The Paris Eternal were able to win a bunch of fights on defense, and then eventually the Gladiators broke on through, where now it's going to be the Paris Eternal's turn to try and break on through and take this point. It's 45 seconds to go. 3 ultimates, not a good look here, as you're going to have the Gladiators with a lot to work with.
Duplicates there for Nico. Instead he goes for a focusing beam early, which goes, well, nowhere in particular. He'll have to, switch now. Gets himself a Diva mech. How can he back No Smite up, who's in Primal Rage and doesn't have a shield available? Tries to burn down Shaz, who's able to fade away, and Burn Ring finds 2. 1 was the Pulse Bomb on Fielder, but the Tracers are dueling. It's a 2 for 2 from Tracers right now, and a 4v4 in the fight. Soon finds another, and then another. OG down to the Pulse Bomb, and the Gladiators are low on personnel. Burn Ring has to step up to the plate now, but without Mira to help him. The Paris Eternal managed to fight through. They step off the point briefly. They're trying to deal with the Drakes here, but they have to touch. They need to get there. No Smite gets there, and Fielder, but they make it close. Now without
very
2.
Close.
But the Gladiators can't go for a re-attempt here. They lost 2 players that got staggered. So did the Eternal just stagger people in an overtime fight?
Well, I mean, in a way, yes, but I don't think the Gladiators probably would have challenged very hard anyway. I think they probably would have backed up, because now you have a lot of things to work with if you're the Gladiators, and it doesn't look like much, but if you play close and you use this EMP and it's good, you're going to build some ultimates off of the back of that, deny Paris any cart progress. This EMP, it'll connect with 3, you should be able to push up, get some kills out of this. So this will allow them to stall the cart out for a little bit longer, which just buys more clock.
The Coalescence, though, means that the Gladiators can't take more than 1 kill away from that fight. Field was able to help his team stand their ground. Pulse Bomb was a sound barrier there from Big Goose, I guess, just to stave off potential damage from the self-destruct. Looks like it was well employed, and the Eternal are headed for the hills.
But you also know, because I believe Hanbin's the only tank like in the fight at that moment, that No Smite's still coming back, that when he uses self-destruct, if you use sound barrier and just push on through, there's no tank there to stop them, right? You can take out Hanbin, and then you can just deny this card.
Another fight for the Gladiators, Matt. They want to start this one up early once more. Half health is No Smite, and he was hacked, but he's able to get away in great timing from FD God on the sound barrier. Now the Eternal, they've got something to work with, and you can see they know it too. Soon pushes forward, OG down, and now they go and clear out the dregs. The Eternal still have a chance to win the map here.
Yeah.
But the Ultimates maybe favoring the Gladiators more with EMP in play for Los Angeles.
Yeah, I was going to say, even though Paris does win the fight, it's still very good for the Gladiators. You don't over-invest here. You have an opportunity to come back and use this EMP. Space does get staggered out, so that'll hurt you. Probably stall you out for a little bit. This OG has to concede the high ground because of this.
Now the Gladiators need to take a moment. I don't really have any choice. The choke's a little bit hard to push out of, but this will put the Paris Eternal in a one-fight situation. That's all they'll need to do. NiKo, who does he duplicate here? This is a crucial moment. Maybe, yep, he just goes for the D.Va, just for solidity and robustness. 2 words I just pulled out of, well, never mind. Anyway, OG is going to go Primal Rage, jumps down into the fight. He gets rid of Soon earlier on, but it's a 1-for-1. 1 Tracer, 1 Sombra down. Getting rid of FD God there may not have been intended by OG, but it will tell you otherwise. And Shaz is able to get rid of NiKo with the Coalescence. The Eternal, they've run out of time here. They go into a fight. They knew they're walking into an EMP, but No Smite and Hanbin again. Only 3 players up for the Paris Eternal, but Space is down. Hanbin trying to stay alive on the point. Field is rushing to get there, and No Smite, he gets 2 inside the saloon. The Primal Rage makes it look more like an abattoir than a bar. And now the Gladiators struggle to get there. The Eternal sneak the map away in a fight where they were way behind in ultimates, facing an EMP, and they still come up with the dub.
And the fight looks so good for the Gladiators, but there's actually like, okay, so Mirror gets a good EMP, and it only connects with 3, but it connects with 2 of the players who have key ultimates at the time for the Paris Eternal. But on the flip side, when the Gladiators pick up some kills, they have both tanks still alive for the Paris Eternal, No Smite and Hanbin. But what they don't realize, and what they're really slow to react to at that moment, is Fielder on the Moira is just sitting inside of the saloon. Nobody has line of sight on him for the Gladiators, so they can't kill him. And he's just able to heal everybody up from there. And then you have a Primal